Let's talk tourism.
Right.
Jose Batalla is a Costa Rican farmer turned hotelier. He's been in tourism since the late 80s. His family cattle ranch near the Rincon de la Vieja volcano became the site for his now famous eco hotel, hot springs, and adventure park, Hacienda Guachipelin. Jose, let's talk tourism.
How are you, Casey?
Good, man. How
Nice
you
talking
doing?
to you.
You know,
Fine. Here, trying to survive, this, well, I think we have survived already, this pandemic.
it sure
Um,
seems like we're in the late days here. Don't know that we're out of the woods, but we're out of the middle of the woods, I would say.
I can see the light at the end of the forest.
Hope so. Hope so. We're seeing it.
Yes.
We're seeing it. Tell me, take us way, way back. Where and when and how did you get started in tourism?
Okay. Well, basically, what happened back then before the internet days, when people traveled with their travel guide, basically there were a couple famous books. The Lonely Planet travel guide was the most famous. Then Frommer's was another famous travel guide. You remember another name?
I do.
Casey?
Yeah, the
Which
moon
one?
guides, for
Yeah,
Amherst
the moon.
photos.
Yes, photos. Yes, exactly. So I remember we were looking at a way to finally show up on those travel guides. If you were not, I mean, you were not visible if you were not on the guide. I mean, there was no other way. So just by luck, I mean, in God's will, the reporter, the writer for this travel guide came around and he said, well, this is a nice place to stop by and to do a a nice, rest stop before you do the climb, because everybody wanted to climb to the mountain, to the volcano, to see the crater. So we were like the stop in the middle of the road, where people rented a horse or they rented a maybe somebody who helped them with their luggage, photographic equipment, things like that, and maybe they'll grab a bite or two or whatever, or spend the night before they started on the next morning, nice and fresh. So we started because of this national park, this volcano that was the main attraction in the area. Even though we had nice waterfalls and Rio Celestes, this fabulous blue rivers that were surrounding the property, those were not attractive. The main thing was the volcano. So 1988 came by, and we got our declaration from Costa Rican Tourism Institute, and we started from there officially. Before that, it was just one guy came by, a couple guys came by, just slow flow that steadily but slowly started increasing. But remember, our road was a complicated road, 22 kilometers from Liberia. We had 5 kilometers of paved road going up into, let's say, the Liberia going north, 5 kilometers, and then 17 kilometers going up this road that was basically dirt and rocks. And when the rain came by, it was almost impassable. So during the dry season, couple hours of driving, and on the rainy season, if you were lucky, 3 hours or maybe more, depending on how much rain we had. So that's how we started, long time ago, 1988 up until now.
So you were almost a base camp outfitter for people to start, yeah?
Yes, that's how we
And
started.
and then when did you first build rooms?
Well, basically, we started retrofitting our workers' quarters for our guests. So, and that's how many operations in the mountainous part of Costa Rica started. Okay,
So when you say
rough.
workers' quarters, you mean for the cattle ranch, yeah?
Yes. We were a cattle ranch, and we still are. We still have our cattle, still have our horses. We do have chickens. We do we do farm to table now. Okay, so we still have our animals and we still like them. But back then, we had the operation was 100% cattle. So we had maybe on high season, we had 60 workers. So we had rooms for 60 people, dining hall for the workers. And we started fixing those and upgrading a little bit in order to be a little more, let's say, appealing for passerbys. As you were saying, outfitters. Yes, we were basically outriggers for people who were going up the mountain, and that's how we started.
And in the
Slow.
in that 30 plus year journey, what has changed the most in Costa Rican tourism? And maybe even more specifically, what's changed the most in that northern Guanacaste tourism?
Hmm. Okay. Well, I would say that there are a couple of things that 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 are what markers or maybe points of inflection. Okay. For example, the airport, that was a big thing for Guanacaste. So once tourists could fly directly, Delta Airlines was the first airline to fly in. Then the charter companies, and then the Canadian planes that started flying in. I would say that's the first thing that marked a, let's say, a road for tourism to start
Sounds
its
like you're
path.
sounds like you got a cake in the oven. Something's oh, that's mine. Sorry. That was my computer.
All right.
Sorry, continue.
All right. So, um, I was saying, yes, the first thing that marked a change was the airport. Before that, people wouldn't mind to rough it a little bit, but then clients started getting a little more demanding. I remember the days we spoke a couple of days ago about the famous days of casado, right? And our cuisine in Costa Rica was just rice and beans and chicken, and or rice and beans and pork chop. End of story, right? Uh, Now I would say that clients are more sophisticated, and now you have cuisine, just to appeal to almost everybody, right? So we have changed for the good. Okay. Uh,
Are there any changes that totally shocked you? Are there things you would have never predicted? Are there things that your father or grandfather would be shocked to see?
I would say that our fathers and grandfathers, they never saw it coming. They never saw that all of our natural wonders. Look at that blue sky in the photo. I mean, here in my background, that blue sky. They never thought that somebody would enjoy. I mean, something as simple as a Guanacaste tree and a blue sky. Nobody saw it coming. The waterfalls in Costa Rica, beautiful waterfalls. Nobody saw it coming. In Rincon de la Vieja, there are beautiful waterfalls, not only in the national park, but also in the Hacienda. And nobody saw it coming. I mean, it's simply somebody to sit right next to a waterfall, to contemplate, to admire, to enjoy that fresh breeze of air that that brings that breeze, that humid breeze from the waterfall, that is so not only refreshing but also invigorating. Nobody saw it coming from our grandfathers,
Sure.
from our father, but then we saw it coming. Some people saw it coming slowly, and that's what we're doing, just sharing with visitors the beauty of a Guanacaste tree, of the Guanacaste ear, this nice seed, this nice capsule that contains little seeds and looks like this brown ear, and people simply are impressed, astonished when they look at little things like that, just the flowers, the trees, the animals. People saw monkeys like something loud and maybe clumsy or maybe a little bit funny, but that was it. Now people are impressed with a tapir, the danta. Okay? People are impressed with butterflies. Nobody paid attention to a nice blue butterfly. But those are things that, yes, whoever saw that and is still doing, this, what we're doing, ecotourism, people from Monteverde, people from Rincon de la Vieja, people from Peninsula de Osa. As I was telling you, nobody saw it coming. Okay. But then throughout the years, we started sharing that. And now we have what we have. Costa Rica is famous for our environment, for our nature, for, the 6% of biodiversity of the world that we have here represented in this country.
You guys are up to how many rooms now?
We're about 80 rooms.
So that, I mean, is that's about as big as you get as a small hotel. You know what I'm saying? That's a good sized small hotel. How many rooms did you start with?
We started with about 10 rooms that we separated from our hacienda. Okay, we separated out of the quarters that could take 60 workers. We separated 10 rooms, and then we moved slowly 10, 20. And now what we're thinking is that we're not going to grow any bigger than those 80. I mean, that we will upgrade our rooms and probably do something for more demanding guests. But we're still down to earth. We're still not a very expensive property. On the contrary, we are accessible to a lot of people. But I think we can improve a little bit and maybe move to a more service oriented, uh, quality service oriented operation.
Getting from 10 to 80 rooms is quite a journey, particularly in a remote part of the country where I'm sure construction was challenging.
Hmm.
I'm sure that bank financing wasn't readily available. What were the biggest challenges from 10 to 80? Because I'm sure if you were to go back in time and give yourself some advice, part of that advice might be don't do it. I mean, running a small hotel is a lot harder than people think. What were the biggest challenges and what were the ones you just didn't see coming?
Number one, focus, because I have ADD. So focus is I would say is number one. There are some interesting challenges. Let me tell you. For example, reservations. Even though we had a 2-meter band radio at the property, um, the wind, in Guanacaste, certain months of the year, there are strong winds, and um, the antenna flew away. And that happened several times per year. So we had, let's say, we didn't have like regular, reliable mm, communication, a communication that you could rely on 100%. So we had a back in the fax days. Yes, there was a small thing where you put a piece of paper on one side and it came out on the other side. And we had a fax service in Liberia. That was a while back, and we had an office where we picked up those communications for reservations. And we had, okay, Casey Halloran is arriving on Friday, and he's arriving with his wife, and they want to have a lunch or a dinner, whatever. Um, so that was quite an ordeal because that was 22 kilometers away from the property, which basically took back then a 2-hour drive.
Oof.
2 hours driving. Once again, if you were able to make it through the muddy road, okay, which and so most of the rainy season, which is 6 months per year, 4-wheel drive always. So that was the a challenging part. Another challenging area was power, electricity, because we had a water wheel, and sometimes a lady or a man would bring whatever, a hair dryer, whatever, and then the whole electrical system would go down because it wouldn't withstand the extra load of a hair dryer, right? So that was quite an ordeal as well. What else was a challenge? Well, communications. We had the fax. Then we had a beeper. Remember those one way beepers? They sent the message, so we received the messages through that thing, and that was funny. Um, then, of course, the road. Then the water. Remember, we're a cattle ranch, so sometimes the pipes were, a cow stepped on a pipe, and then you would have a guest, having a shower, and then he'll be full of soap, screaming because there was no water to get his soap out of his face. So we had to run with a bucket of water, and eventually we had uh, we had our backup plan. We had a bucket full of water right next to the bathroom, just in the event that a cow would step on a water pipe. Then, of course, another challenge was the hot water. Then we came about an easy solution for us back then, which was the solar heating system for water. So that helped us a lot. Another challenge is that we're in a volcano, so the water is heavy on minerals. So we had to move all of our pipelines from metal to a PVC system because the metals were corroded or eaten out by the strong mineral content of the water. So the same happened with the roof. Some of the roofing, the tin roof, was eaten out by the acid rain. So that was a challenge too. Um, so those were things that were challenging. For example, ice. I mean, people don't. I mean, you've been in Costa Rica for a while. I don't know if you remember when ice was sold in big blocks, big ice blocks, and they were packed in this sack of reusable sack from bag from animal feed, and they packed it with either sawdust or the what do you call that from the rice, the outer layer
Husk.
of the rice. Exactly. So that was quite a challenge, to bring ice up to the property in order to have a beer at a certain temperature, or to give them a whatever Coca-Cola or a lemon glass of lemonade with ice. And normally people, tourists, did not comprehend why their ice had little crumbs of sawdust,
Nice.
right?
What about so obviously in the early days for any sort of remote hotel property, communications was difficult, reliable power, electricity was difficult, road access was difficult. These things have gotten much better in recent years, but we've got new issues and new challenges. Probably one of the most notable being operating costs, right? I mean, people used to look at Costa Rica as a very affordable place to vacation or to live. And in recent
Hmm.
years, it's become quite onerous to operate a business here, particularly a people-heavy business. What
Yes.
other what other changes have come about in the more recent years that were in stark contrast or perhaps weren't present in the early years?
Hmm. Okay. Well, costs are the most let's say challenging, um, let's say, are the biggest hurdle. Okay, costs. And I would say everything related with labor. Okay, we have something called our social security system. It is super super expensive, and it has been increasing throughout time. Okay, I remember that almost every two presidential periods, they came about with a new reform in order to increase costs because the money was not enough to sustain the social security system. Um, and it's good that we have universal health care, but the cost to the society in general is horrendous. So that is a bad thing and something that has changed for bad. Another thing that has changed for bad is the cost in power. Power, they have a perverse incentive. No, it's not an incentive, it's a disincentive, which is the peak in demand. Once you, let's say you're a high occupation once a week or twice a week, and in that high occupation, you need to, you demand from the power grid so much energy at a given time. That extra energy is charged at an extra rate. So you're not only paying for what you consume, but you're also paying for this extra power that you demand at a certain time. So you have like a fine, like a penalty
Mm.
for consuming extra at a given time. So that's a bad thing that you're having there. So you have social security expenses, then you have the power. Then I would say something bad is, permits. And I think this happens worldwide. For example, now they came about a new regulation for fire hazards or fire, let's say, certain hazards related with gas. Okay. So if you had a permit, suddenly just, from one day to another, they came with this new regulation and you have to put like extra tons of money, with very short notice. And you need to let's say put like extra safety gadgets here and there in order to prevent a fire related with LPG gas. So those things are bad news. Also, I would say that, for example, if you have up until in your payroll, if you reach a certain number of workers, then you need to hire um, health experts in order to avoid accidents. So now, especially in pandemic days, to have extra workers that take care of small details like that, it's a heavy burden.
On
Okay.
the flip side of that, though, um, obviously Costa Rica's regulatory environment and other costs make the barrier to entry high. Don't you think that's also part of what sets the destination apart from, say, a Mexico or other locations um, that have maybe attracted more mass tourism and mass construction and less environmentally friendly, less sustainable development? I mean, at this point, um, as many scars as I'm sure you've taken for being a pioneer up there, it's not like you're going to see a lot of other competitors jumping in to build a competitor next door to you because of these barriers. So in some way, some of the red tape has almost been good for Costa Rica because it's kept out the people who aren't truly passionate from tourism,
Hmm.
and it's limited the supply of hotel nights to such a degree that we can command a higher price.
Yes, you are right. You got it right. That's how it is. Um, there's still some pirate operations. You can remember. I mean, you've been in tourism for a while. Airbnb was mostly the base of Airbnb was mostly pirate operations. I mean, operations that have gone around this red tape barrier.
Mm.
Okay, because it was started as Airbnb, an apartment, and suddenly somebody's renting it, and there's no taxes, no social security expenses, no power. Well, power, yes, but no permits. So there is still a little bit of that that happens worldwide. But yes, for the most part, you are right. Costa Rica, for example, with a barrier that you're mentioning, or that we haven't mentioned, environmental permits. they're so complicated that they limit what you can develop, and that has been a natural barrier for overdeveloping our country. I mean, countries this size only doing 3 million tourists per year pre-pandemic. I mean, you see Dominican Republic, which is not this size, and they're doing 3 times as much. So yes, you are right.
What
That has
other
kept us more exclusive.
what other advantages, planned or accidental, do you think Costa Rica has over our regional peers? You know, why is the brand so strong against, say, maybe a Mexico or a Dominican Republic? What do you think is, when you meet guests every day at your property, why did they choose Costa Rica?
Okay, well, Mexico and Dominican, they are more into the I would say tour ghetto tourism. Okay, you have this touristic ghettos. Okay, you have this enclosed environment with this fabulous white sand and this fabulous crystal clear water. Okay, and maybe this nice cool breeze, and okay, but this is all into this artificial self-contained environment. Okay, so you're more like in a fishbowl. Okay, whereas here in Costa Rica, tourists experiment the country from border to border and from sea to sea all over. Okay, so um, this concept of the all-inclusive ghetto is not applying to Costa Rica. So this is the first difference. Okay, no, not massive. Okay, I would say maybe 85% of our touristic hotel offer are operations that are under 80 rooms, 80 rooms or below. Okay, so we have a diversity of properties that are that have different price ranges and different decorations and different ambiances in the in the restaurants or bars, their decoration, the way they look throughout the dispersed throughout the country. So I would say that's one of the differences. Then the people, okay. I would say Costa Ricans are easygoing. They're, as we call them, pura vida. They like to talk to people. They like to talk to tourists. They are intrigued about what do they have to say. What do somebody from France, from Spain, from the United States, from Canada, and they have learned that. I mean, it's not. It's been Costa Ricans are nice by birth. We've been always a peaceful country, different from the countries that surround us. But uh, we have learned also how to enjoy sharing with visitors. Okay, so that's a difference. And then I would say that our size, our smallness compared to Mexico. Mexico is fabulous. They have deserts, they have tropical forests, they have pyramids, they have whatever, Pacific, Caribbean. Um, but then we have it all in a very small place. Why? I mean, where else in this civilized world can you have breakfast in the Caribbean, enjoy the Afro Caribbean environment, then have lunch in the Central Valley surrounded by volcanoes, and maybe you can be at this fabulous coffee tour, having this great lunch, surrounded by the coffee plants and in this fabulous cool environment, and then driving for a couple hours and then enjoying the sunset in the Pacific all in the same day, and without it being strenuous. I mean, you could be driving your own vehicle or being chauffeured of whatever you like the most. I mean, not many places you can do that, right?
True. What do you see changing, or what have you seen change coming out of this pandemic in terms of traveler trends, tourism trends? Are you seeing
We
anything
have,
different happen in your business?
yes, 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 of course. People are more interested in contemplating. Before, you would see people traveling fast. I would see, especially travelers from the United States of America, coming in for a 5-day vacation. They would travel in one day, spend 3 days really quick doing lots of things, compressing a 12-day vacation into 5 days. And probably they would need a sick leave when they got home because
Right.
they did so much that they ended up so tired. And now we see people enjoying themselves and enjoying the destination. Uh, let's see more people contemplating a sunset, and taking it nice and slow with a glass of white wine or cold imperial beer or a beer from a local brewery. Um, just enjoying a sunset, and taking a picture, or just taking a stroll in the forest. People going slower, enjoying listening to things. They listen to the sound of the forest. Insects or birds or maybe a monkey howling. Um, People are more into um, enjoying. They were locked for so long and bombarded by bad news and bad news and bad news. They come here and they see all of this nature that we have preserved. And Costa Rica has probably more than 35% of the land dedicated to conservation, private and public land altogether, more than a third of the country dedicated to conservation. And people love it. I mean, one of the bad things about Mexico is Mexico City in itself, it's cars and crowds. And same happens in every modern city in Europe or North America. So people come here, and even though we have our traffic problems, for the most part, you're driving up to Monteverde or you're driving up to Peninsula de Osa, down to Peninsula de Osa, Puerto Viejo, or enjoying the canals in Tortuguero or Caño Negro that has this fabulous estuary, um, wetland, sorry, not estuary. Or you go by the estuaries of the Tempisque River, or Rincon de la Vieja, and you enjoy one of the beautiful volcanoes in Costa Rica, Rincon de la Vieja. People are just um, impressed about nature and green and green and green. So that is the trend. People enjoying more healthy food. They're looking not for the regular fries, but healthier options. They're enjoying more the local breweries and healthy stuff. Okay.
Last question,
Yes.
often debated, often written about. What the heck is Pura Vida?
Hakuna Matata.
Is that it?
um, it's good that we as a society we have a common denominator. Okay, and that's our common denominator. Um, we can focus on bad things, but I've seen people having roughing it. People who are having rough times nowadays. Out of a job and they're still thinking that life is pura vida. They still have something that can bring you a little bit of joy, happiness, and this feeling that Costa Rican people have That is that they like life, they enjoy life, they enjoy saying hello to their family, to their relatives, to their neighbors. So we're still Pura Vida. Even the pandemic try to erase that from our vocabulary, from our mindset.
It
Right?
can't be stopped. I'll add
It
one.
cannot
I'll
be.
add one question into my last question. A lot of things have changed. A
Yes.
lot of things have changed in the pandemic. A lot of businesses have changed. A lot of businesses have come and gone. Have you changed at all during our 12-month business sabbatical?
Business sabbatical is a pura vida way of of putting it. Um, yes, of course, of course. Well, number one, people had gotten closer to their friends, so that's something that we, as as uh, as this story about the American traveler trying to compress those 12 days into 5 days, we have learned, and I have learned how to enjoy that. And of course, I've learned from travelers, just simply by, I have changed looking at the way that people travel. I'm like, oh, those guys are contemplating something. So I'm looking at that tree to see that bird nest, and I'm finally enjoying a little bit more because
Yeah,
of this.
it is funny, but I'm sure you've been through this, probably even a cycle more than me. You get to a point where the business of travel becomes mostly about business, and then you forget the awesome part of, the you being able to work in that incredible environment. My team and I, we get to go to these fabulous places. At some point, everything becomes work, even when you're enjoying the pool or whatever. You're thinking of a business mindset, and you're reviewing things instead of enjoying things. It has been as much as these 12 months have been a lot of pain. The pleasure part is, we've all started to maybe enjoy the work we're in a little bit more. And what I've also been
Yes,
fascinated to see is, it's really been a massive weed out of the people who were in it to win it, who really love this and are passionate
yes,
about it, versus the people who just
yes.
came along after it became lucrative.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's been a pretty interesting
Yes,
lesson for all of us, and certainly we've all made some
yes,
we've all made some interesting post-pandemic friends when as this industry has needed to pull together a little bit more.
certainly, yes, certainly, yes. That
Well,
is true.
Jose, I don't want to take your whole day. It's always fun talking to you. Hopefully we can do it again soon, and hopefully in person and
Yes,
with a beer.
two.
Thank you for your time. Have a great rest of the day.
Yes, sir. Nice talking to you. Take care. Huh.
Adios.
Let's talk tourism.